I think I just came up when I was going through the county website.
Okay.
ISOC event, Dorsey website.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll just give one more minute and then we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. To those joining us in person and online, thank you for attending the second public meeting for the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant Biogas Utilization Project. I thank you for your time tonight to join us and your interest in this project. I'm Nathan Gerber. I'm the Coordinator of Energy Management with Oxford County. I'm here with the project design team consisting of J.L. Richards and Associates Limited and their partner, the Ontario Clean Water Agency, or AQUA for short. Before we start the presentation, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to highlight. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project page at the county's Speak Up Oxford website. By participating in this meeting, either online or in person, you are providing your consent to be recorded. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation. If applicable, we would ask that you make note of which slide your question or comment relates to so that we can go back if necessary. For those online, your microphone and video will be disabled. You will have opportunity to ask questions using the Q&A feature. Please include your name along with your question. Both your name and question will be iterated by the moderator to be addressed by the project team at the end of the presentation. For those in person, you will also have opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. If you wish to ask a question, please line up at a microphone. We would ask that you include your name when you ask your question. Questions and comments received today will be documented as part of the project's consultation process. With that said, we will commence with the presentation. Carrie Toyen is Director of Innovation, Technology and Alternate Delivery team with the Ontario Clean Water Agency. Carrie, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan, and welcome everyone. We're just going to get started today. We'll do a little bit of a recap, but first off, the public consultation that we're holding today is all because we are doing a renewable energy approval application for Oxford County. The REA or the REA is an authorization form from the MECP. It outlines a bunch of conditions and technical reports and studies that need to be done to be considered for part of the renewable energy technology that we would like to implement. And today we're kind of going through the technical reports that have been completed. So just as an overview, we had held the first public meeting back in the fall of last year, where we went through kind of the draft of all of the project documents and what we were doing and then kind of the process of where we're at. Right now we're in part 4 of this overall process where we have completed all of the REA reports, and we will be presenting and kind of concluding on each of those studies and reports that we found, which is part 4 of this process. And then after this public meeting, we will be proceeding to submitting the REA application along with all the technical reports and documents that's required. And at any point, please feel free to raise your hands with any questions. So today we'll go through the project background, why we are doing this REA application. Then we'll go through the technical report summaries of all of the REA technical reports and studies that were done, and then kind of look at the next steps from here and take any questions at the end or throughout the presentation as well too. We can kind of keep it informal that way. So we'll start with the project background. So as part of the Oxford County's Renewable Energy Action Plan, there is a commitment by the county to use 100% renewable energy by 2050. And one of the initiatives to get to that plan is by having this biogas utilization project at the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant. So an overview of the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant. It is a wastewater treatment plant with the conventional activated sludge system with the primary, secondary treatment, and it discharges to the Thames River. Historically, there's been 55% of biogas generated at the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant that has been used to fuel the boilers, but the remaining that do not get fed to the boilers is flared off. So what we're looking at here for this project is by taking that excessive biogas and utilizing up to 100% of all that biogas generated on site. The Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant has actually already looked at some photovoltaic project, and it has that implemented on site as well. So this is kind of like a step 2 of a renewable sources at this plant. An overview of this biogas utilization project and the steps that have already been done. JL Richards and Aqua, we completed this study, and the CHP, which is a combined power unit, has been selected. Currently, it's at up to 100% design, and we have prepared all the documents for the REA application, and we are ready to submit after this public meeting. So the CHP design itself is a 250 kilowatt electric capacity. It is designed to utilize 100% of the biogas that is generated at the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant. And what it does is it takes the biogas and turns it into heat and power and sends it back for usage at the plant. And it is connected to the grid, and that is through a net metering arrangement with Hydro One. Some of the benefits of the CHP and having it at the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant is that it will allow the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant to be 60% renewable electricity. That's combined with the photovoltaic on site and the CHP. And this will result in a 58% decrease in carbon emissions from this plant. Just a project site plan where Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant is located is outlined in the red, and where the proposed CHP system you can see is within the existing site and it is pointed out in the yellow, which is kind of in the northeast corner, I believe, of the facility. So part of this REA process, we looked at a lot of provincial and local municipal permits as part of the REA process, and we have engaged with all the necessary ministries as well as all the necessary parties like the ESA, TSSA, Hydro One, and all permits that are required as well. So now what we'll do is, as part of the public meeting number 2, which is the final meeting, we are going to go through all of the technical reports that have been prepared for the REA application. Before I go into specific technical reports, what I'll do is I'm going to go through all of the required reports and give you an overview of what each of those reports serve, and then we'll dive into each of those reports and the summaries and the findings that we found in those reports. So the first technical required document is the project description report. This project description report outlines it's a comprehensive overview of the entire project. It includes all the project components, contact information, location, the technology proposed, its capacity, project activities, and kind of all the likely potential environmental impacts that we foresee with the project. It is the start of the REA application where you outline what the potential effects are, and then you go into doing the actual technical report and study to confirm what those impacts actually are. So the project description report is a live document, and it continues to be updated, and it is available on the Oxford website for your viewing at any time. The construction plan report focuses on all the construction activities for the biogas utilization project. It also looks at any negative environmental effects associated with all the construction activities through all the phases, and it goes through any mitigation measures to address those impacts. The design and operations report focuses on the project site plan and key design components and facility operations plan, and highlighting any negative environmental effects related to designs and operations of the CHP system. And it also looks at emergency response and communication plans to mitigate those. The decommissioning plan looks at the CHP system that's part of this project and how we will decommission it responsibly, restoring the site back to what it used to be prior to the CHP implementation. The Natural Heritage Assessment Report, or the NHA, is a comprehensive overview of all the records that identify natural heritages and potential impacts within a 120-meter radius around the project location. And we highlight any potential impacts or any identified natural heritage in that area. The Cultural Heritage Assessment Report, it focuses on any cultural heritage resources within that kind of same radius and anything that may be impacted by this project as well. Going hand in hand with that is the Archaeological Assessment Report, and that looks at the archaeological potential at that project site. It confirms if there's anything that's been on the land that has not been looked at, and if there's any archaeological pieces to that. And we go through and confirm that piece with that report. The noise study report looks at noise emissions from the existing and the new proposed CHP system, and ensures that we complied to the Ontario environmental regulations. And if there is any findings there, the mitigations associated with that. Air emission studies, what this is it's the dispersion modeling, where we look at the emissions from both the existing and the new CHP system as part of the biogas utilization project, and evaluate and make sure that they're in compliance with the air quality standards and any mitigation measures associated with any additional emissions that the CHP system would add to the existing emissions of the plant. The odor study report, similar to the air emissions, but looks at odor, looks at both the existing and the new proposed project, any additional odor, and then evaluates any negative new impacts and mitigation measures on that. The hydrogeological assessment report looks at the project and assesses it for the geological nature of it and any new negative potential impacts as well. Surface water assessment, this was something that was added to that we had to provide, and this one looks at the existing surface water conditions, ensures that we comply with all the environmental regulations, and that we are not increasing or introducing a new negative impact as well with the CHP system. Similarly, the stormwater management plan looks at the addition of the CHP system and any additional, measures that comes with it that affects the stormwater through the plant. Water assessment report, very similar to that, assess and defines all the water bodies in that area and if there's any negative impacts with the CHP system implemented on site. We're almost there to all the reports. Effluent management plan looks at the existing effluent at site and if the new project, the CHP system, affects the effluent management, and if it does, the mitigation measures there. Traffic management looks at if with the new proposed project, if there's any impact to traffic and mitigation measures for any new negative environmental impacts. Then finally, the consultation report is part of the consultation process of this REA application, and it documents all of the communication, all the meetings, all the engagement with the public, and every party that has been engaged and been in contact for this project, and it outlines all of that in our report, and it also helps to meet the requirement of the Regulation 359 for the REA application. So now we'll jump into every specific report that I just kind of gave an overview on. So in the project description report, we identified that we would like to propose a CHP system at the existing wastewater treatment plant at Woodstock, and that the capacity would be a 250 kilowatt electric. It is defined as a class 3 anaerobic digestion facility, as it is not located on a farm operation. We went through part of the project description report is kind of to go through all the potential negative impacts. So for stormwater, we've said that, during the construction and the installation and decommissioning, we anticipate that there will be some negative impact, but not during the operation of the unit. So that in our stormwater management plan, we plan to investigate all of that and include an erosion and sediment control plan to mitigate those potential negative impacts that we foresee during the construction, installation, and decommissioning of the project. In the traffic management, we also, similar to the stormwater management plan, we said that we foresee some impacts during the construction, installation, and decommissioning phase of the project, but not during the operation. So, and what we said there is because we know that during the implementation, we're going to have increased traffic to install and to also decommission the system. And what we did was we prepared a plan that would kind of mitigate that additional traffic during those phases. In cultural heritage, we did not foresee any additional impacts on cultural heritage or archaeological impact, and that was because it is on a pre-disturbed existing location on site. So we did not foresee any negative impact, but we still carried out this report to make sure that that was true. Similar with the natural heritage, we said that holds because we are installing the unit on a pre-disturbed land, and we also executed this natural heritage report to make sure that that was the case. Impacts on surface water and groundwater. So we anticipated that during the construction, installation, and decommissioning of the project, that there would be some impacts on surface water and groundwater, and that's because of the excavation work that would be done, a bit of construction work on site when we are to install and to remove the unit during the installation and decommissioning phase of the project. But we did not anticipate during the operation that there would be any additional impact there. So we carried out these plans to confirm those assumptions as well, to see if there was any additional negative impacts that would be associated with the surface water and groundwater. Similar, you can see that there's a trend here that basically we anticipate that most of the reports, similar like the emissions to air and noise, that we see a lot of some small minor impacts during just the construction, installation, and the decommissioning, but not during the operation of the unit on site. And we carried out these reports, the emissions to air and noise, to confirm that piece. We also looked at public health and safety, and because it's on an existing site, we believe that during operations, we did not see any additional negative impact because it's contained within the existing facility. But obviously during the construction, installation, and the decommissioning, where there's more increased traffic in the area to bring in the unit and bring the unit out and all the associated construction and decommissioning equipment, that there would be a bit more, there'd be an increase to traffic, air, and noise during those phases, but not during operations. Local interest, land use, and infrastructure. So what we looked at here is any impacts to any local interests, land use nearby, and nearby infrastructure. So what we said here again is that during the operation of this unit, we don't see any additional negative impact because it is located in the existing facility. It would all be contained, but obviously during the construction and the decommissioning phase where there's increased traffic, it will impact local roads with all the equipment and associated construction equipment coming in and out of the site. So we looked at the traffic management plan to ensure that we're looking at the local roads and all the applicable permits that are required during the construction and decommissioning to minimize that traffic negative impact there. So that was the project description report. So basically that is the first report that is completed and shared prior to the first public meeting. And we set out kind of what we expect to find and what kind of impacts we foresee. And then we carry out every single report to actually confirm those impacts. So we looked at the construction plan report and we identified all the activities that's during construction, which includes the site preparation, the installation, the post-installation activities like, all the landscape remediation work that needs to be done. We looked at all the equipment that's required, so utility vehicles, excavators, dump trucks, concrete mixers, transport trucks, cranes, rigging devices, equipment, and then kind of looking at the access roads in and out of the plant to kind of get these equipment into and out of the site. And we identified that no new roads would be required, that we would be using all existing roads and all internal roadways as well. So nothing new in the plant and outside of the plant to accommodate for the equipment to come in and out during construction. So we also looked at the surrounding areas and vegetation, and because it's all within the existing plant, we did not see any impact there. We looked at air and noise during construction, and we did state that there would be increased dust and odor during just the construction, but not noise during construction phase, since it would be under the construction hours that are allotted in Oxford. So we looked into the Environmental Protection Act to ensure that we would comply with local air quality, because we do anticipate that there would be a bit more dust during construction and decommissioning, and ensuring that our construction activities will fall under the local air quality limits at all times during construction and decommissioning of the project. We also looked at water sources within the construction activities and any impacts during, the construction, which is erosion and sedimentation and spills. So basically what we looked at is, how do we contain all of, how do we not contaminate the water sources nearby when we have excavation works underway? So we looked at putting up fencing, basin liners, stockpile material, just kind of berms and everything kind of to contain everything so that we're not contaminating nearby water sources there. And that's detailed in the construction plan report. So under the natural heritage assessment, what we looked at here is we wanted to look at all the natural heritage in that 120-meter radius around the project location. And what we have identified is that there is significant natural features, species at risk in that kind of 120-meter radius around the project. So we did identify that. And what we did was we kind of followed up with the MECP species at risk branch to confirm where we are doing our project, and we have identified potential habitat. But what we found is that although we have identified species at risk and potential habitat within that 120-meter radius, because the CHP system is on the pre-disturbed and fenced-in area of the existing facility. We did not anticipate that we would impact any of that potential habitat. So that was the conclusion of the natural heritage assessment there, and that we would ensure that all food waste and garbage on the construction would be properly secured and disposed of to prevent any traction to wildlife into the facility. And we were we would make sure that there's like proper site drainage so that we don't have any standing pools of water, any contamination there. So that was the conclusion of the natural heritage report. In the decommissioning plan report, this report outlines a plan of how we will remove the CHP system from site once it is at its end of life. So we look at how we're going to disconnect it, remove it, restore the land, and manage the waste responsibly. So we looked at all the equipment that are required with it and any impacts, any additional new roads or access that's required. And we confirmed that no new roads are required. We use all existing one. And similar to the construction report, same amount of vehicles are required to kind of remove everything and remediate the land back to its normal state prior to the CHP implementation. So here again, we looked at that, we anticipated that there would be negative impacts to the surface water runoff during decommissioning activities, obviously because we anticipate there would be dust, some excavation work. So, we looked at kind of making sure that we contain everything and we contain the stormwater runoff during the decommissioning process to mitigate these potential impacts there. So the Cultural Heritage Assessment Report. The Cultural Heritage Assessment Report, we look at any cultural heritage resources within the area, and we confirm with the Ministry of Cultural Heritage. Right. Yep. And to make sure that we identified everything in that area. And what we found is that because this is already on pre-disturbed lands, we have no impacts on built heritage or cultural landscapes. So there were no mitigation measures here since all the CHP system is being built on the existing site on existing pre-disturbed land. Similar to that is the archaeological assessment report. So what we look at is we look at the historical context of the land, and we know that the land was used prior by indigenous lands used 13,000 years ago. We look at the history of the land and up to its current state of when the Woodstock Wastewater Treatment Plant was implemented. And we look at any impacts that there are there. So we look at any archaeological resources that could be on the land. So what we looked at when we did this study, we did do a stage 2 archaeological assessment, but because we are installing the CHP on a pre-disturbed land that was then not required because it's going to be contained within pre-disturbed land that has already been dug up before. So there would be no archaeological resources found there. So the noise study and the acoustic assessment or the acoustic assessment report, we look at all the noise that could come from all the phases of the project. And we obviously identified that during the construction and the decommissioning that would be increased noise, but we did not anticipate that during the operation of the unit that there would be additional noise to what the current site produces already. So obviously what we did was we looked at the traffic management plan and we put in some mitigations to ensure that we minimize noise. We are doing a construction during the construction hours only so that during the construction and decommissioning phase of the project, we adhere to those bylaws. Air emission study report. So in the air emission study report, what we look at is any air emissions associated with the project. So what we looked at here is that we have identified that all contaminants was assessed And overall, the facility complies with all the regulation of air emissions. So we looked at the equipment that would be used during construction and decommissioning, and we developed that management, the traffic management plan to kind of make sure that we're using the best vehicles during those phases to reduce our emissions. And we also developed a regular maintenance program to make sure that the CHP system is always being maintained so that it does not produce any additional emissions because of lack of maintenance. Odor study report. So the odor study report, what we look at here is any additional odor that would be generated by the CHP system. And we did a dispersion model and we looked at it and we did not see that there would be any additional odor and that the quality of the biogas, but we do know that there is biogas generated and that has already been generated. So what we said was that we would look and make sure that we have an odor complaint response plan. So not that the biogas odor is anything new, but we mentioned that it would follow the same odor complaint response plan. We're not generating anything additional, but that is something that the CHP system being there, there's still odor. So we would use the odor complaint response plan to kind of address any odor complaints. And we also looked at the quality of the biogas and we would monitor it just like how we do already existing to make sure that it's at the highest quality, which would, make sure that the odors contain to its limit that's supposed to. The hydrogeological assessment report. So what this looks at is we look at the effects to the groundwater. So we looked at, what we looked at was the storage of the biomass and the management of the biosolids. And we looked into see if it has any impact on this project. And we concluded that it does not have an impact. And because of that, we did not have any additional mitigation measure associated with the groundwater management. Surface water assessment. So surface water assessment, we look at the nearby surface water bodies and we look to see if there's any potential impacts that this project would have to surface water. So we anticipated that during operations that there would be no additional impacts, but during construction and decommissioning, because of the excavation work, any water that flows through the facility would kind of pick up that extra dust and contaminate. So what we did was we've developed an emergency response, like we modify the existing emergency response plan so that any spills during construction and decommissioning would follow a spill action to clean up and kind of contain within the site to not contaminate any nearby surface water bodies. We looked at putting in fencing during construction to make sure we contain everything and that we would properly remediate the landscape after construction and after decommissioning so that there's no additional runoff from the facility because of the excavation work associated with the CHP system during construction and decommissioning. The water assessment report. So the water assessment report also looks at the water bodies nearby the plant. And we looked at the Thames River and the wetland, and we also have confirmation that there was no additional impacts there, so there was no additional mitigation measures that we had to prepare for that piece. The design and operations report, as previously stated, the design operations report looks at this project and all of the potential impacts of the actual design of the system and the operation of the system. So what we looked at here was any potential impacts there, and what we produced was a emergency response procedure for the project to make sure that the CHP system will follow the existing emergency plan on site. So it's an additional piece of equipment in the wastewater treatment plant, and it will follow all of the emergency response procedures that's already been in place. And any non-emergency communication, any non-emergency but communication to public will also follow the same procedure that the wastewater treatment plant follows now, which would be sharing through media channels, project website, newspaper notices, and community bulletin boards, similar to what we already do now for the facility. So we're almost there. The stormwater management plan. So stormwater management plan looks at all the phases of the project and any potential negative impacts. And what we have seen was that we thought during the operation and decommissioning there would be negative impacts because of the excavation work and all the runoffs that would affect the stormwater. But during the operations, because all of that land would be remediated and there would be no additional runoff, we did not anticipate that during operations that there would be any additional negative effects. So during to combat and to kind of combat those negative impacts of stormwater during construction and decommissioning, we would make sure that we have catch basins, we would have a spill plan, we would contain everything, and we would make sure that, you know, post construction and post decommissioning, when the equipment is taken off site, that the land would be remediated with, you know, proper sod and grass seed to make sure that there's no additional runoffs after we remove the equipment or after we install it during construction. Traffic management plan. Now, this is a plan that we put in place to make sure that we minimize the amount of negative impacts, because we do see that during construction and the decommissioning phase of the project that there would be increased traffic noise, increased congestion, and what we put together is a plan of how we would follow local permits, local bylaws, road permits to ensure that we are adhering to using the local roads and that no oversized loads are also anticipated. So we looked at what roads we would use. We don't need new roads. We use the existing ones, and we would make sure that, you know, proper traffic personnel would be used to kind of be used during construction so that we reduce any kind of traffic and health and safety hazards with those trucks coming into the community and out in that area during those phases. The effluent management plan. So the effluent management plan looks at if there is going to be an impact to the effluent requirements that the wastewater treatment plant has with this project. And we do not anticipate that there would be any additional impacts to the effluent. So there was no really mitigation or additional measures we need to do. The existing effluent management plan, the existing effluent discharge limits of the wastewater treatment plant will be followed. So no further actions on this piece. So the consultation report, so all the reports that I just went through into so much details, you can get even more details on it on Oxford's website. All the reports have been completed, have been dated, and are available and posted online that you have all access to and can read at any point in time. The last report that is going to be posted in March of this year, it should say March 2025 there, is the consultation report. So the consultation report just marks all the communications we've had, all the communications with every single party, every ministry, every engagement party that we have for this project, and all the correspondence with it. It also outlines the public meeting, all the questions and answers we've had in the first public meeting and also in this final public meeting. And it will also be accessible online, and that will be ready in March of this year. You can see all the correspondence we've had throughout this entire project, and it is an open, transparent report to show all the parties that we have engaged in and to follow the REA process. Which now brings me to the REA schedule and kind of on the next steps. So this is the outline of the schedule. You know, we started doing all of our technical studies, and as I mentioned, we have completed all of them except for the consultation report because we have to finish this public meeting here. After this meeting, that consultation report would be available shortly in March. we've done our first meeting back in the fall of last year. Now we have all the reports and studies available, and this meeting served to kind of give you that overview and summary of every report and our findings, and any additional details you'd like, they're all online for you to access. The next steps from here is for us now to prepare that consultation report, make it available, and then proceed with our REA application and sending it off to the MECP. We anticipate sending that off in that April period of this year, which then allows MECP to kind of have that 6-month review period. Once we get that REA approval, that is when this project can then proceed into the construction phase and all the tendering pieces associated with construction to then have hopefully operation of the system by September of 2026 next year. So that's kind of the process overview that I just gave. We are finished with part 4 as of today after this meeting. So we will be submitting the application, and the application itself contains all the reports, which is online. Everything is basically what we have posted online is what we will be sending to the MECP, and it will be available at any point in time to the public to access. So this slide deck itself, this public meeting slide deck, and the public meeting number 1 slide deck are also available on Oxford's website for you to review if you have any additional questions. There is a QR code here that takes you straight to the project page where all those reports and studies are available, including the meeting notes from public meeting number 1. And the meeting notes from public number 2 will also be available after this meeting, as well as the consultation report. And if you have any questions, our contact information is also online, and it's also here. So at this point, this presentation, that's the end of this presentation. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to the contacts here. And now we'll be taking any questions from the public that is in the room and online. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. That was a lot of information to go through. That's a lot of information. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. If you want some clarification, if you do, we just ask that you say your name, so just so we have it on record, and ask your question. I'll turn it over to those in attendance here, or if there's any online. Doesn't look like we have any questions online. Any questions from those in attendance?
Awesome. Well, if there are no questions, everything's online again, as we mentioned. And if you do come up with any questions, contact information's here for you to reach out to Nathan and ourselves here. And everything will be made available. This recording will also be available, so you can also access it online. But otherwise, thank you for everyone's time. Thank you for participating in this public consultation. And we look forward to keep moving this project along. Thank you.